Hello, guys. How are you doing? Welcome back to my little series where I read my writing, I guess. Actually, Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I used ChatGPT, but I found a name for this little thing that I'm doing, and it's gonna be called Spoken Pages. That's really cool. So, welcome back to Spoken Pages. Today's writing is gonna be a little story that's kind of rooted in a true fact about me growing up, but also some of it's been enhanced for the story's sake. And I don't remember when I wrote that. I think I was in high school when I wrote that. Also, this one's a bit of a longer one, so enjoy. So let's just get to it. As a kid, I used to love collecting little ceramic fairies. This hobby was given to me by my grandmother, who would give me one every year for Christmas and one for my birthday. My mom built a shelf for me to showcase them in the living room. I was so proud of my collection, I would show it to everyone who would come to the house. And even though I was young and clumsy, those little fairies were my very fragile property that I cared very much about. I was mature enough to know that they were not dolls and that I shouldn't play with them to not risk breaking them. But I would talk to them through the glass and look at them for so long. They were all so pretty. I wished I could be a fairy myself. I would stand in front of that glass with all my statues lined up behind it and imagine a world in which I was a fairy too, and we would go on adventures together. In this world, everything was possible. I could fly, I had powers, all the powers in the world, and I could do anything that I wanted because I was the creator of this world. Over the years, my collection grew bigger and bigger until I had dozens of them. Then one day, it all stopped. I'm not sure if it's because my mom told her we had too many, or if she just thought I was too old to get fairies at Christmas, but my grandmother stopped giving me fairies. I thought maybe she had given me all the fairies in the world, so there was no more, which obviously is not possible. But quickly enough, I had gotten bored of my fairies, of having the same ones to look at, the same ones I'd been looking at for years. So we put them in a box and put them away where they wouldn't take so much space. Many years passed, and I had completely forgotten about my little fairy population. During high school, I started to take interest in gardening with my mom. She had planted trees and flowers and bushes into the garden, but I wanted to create something more, have more fun. And she told me, why don't you create little fairy gardens so you can finally use those little fairies you have? She was right. I looked online for inspiration and found so many beautiful gardens, little houses and parks for fairies. It was like bringing my little fairy world to life. So one day, I took a pot, smashed it on the ground, put the pieces in the pot, filled with dirt and moss, and created a little house with tiles and doors, and I even put some flowers on the rooftop. I was so proud of it, and so excited to put my little fairy in her little house. I ran to the closet in which they were stored, took the box out, opened it, unwrapped each fairy from its protective paper, and laid them side by side. Who would be the first one to get their very own house? I chose a one with wings that had the same color as the flowers of the rooftop. She would fit perfectly. And as I set her down, something incredible happened. The little fairy magically came to life and jumped up and down, filled with joy, looking all around her. She immediately knew where she was, in her new home. She gently touched the walls made of moss, the floor made of rocks, and the door made of wood. Then she looked up at me and said, "Thank you." I started tearing up with joy and guilt. Those creatures had a soul, and I let them completely abandoned in the dark for years. All this time, all I had to do was give them a home. I was so excited, I had to make more. With a bigger pot, I could create a park in which they could have walks. With another pot, I made another house. I created a real fairy world and gave them all the love, they deserved. And in exchange, they revived my imagination and gave me hope. The end. Oh, that was such a cute little story. So, the moral of the story, guys, and why I loved that text so much when I read it back, is to keep your imagination alive. That is something that we lose very easily growing up and having to live in the real world. Imagination is the most beautiful thing that we have. It's where we get to create. Everything that is made in this world came from imagination. And just like I said, it gives us hope. Because with the power of imagining a better outcome, the life of our dreams, imagining what we want, we have hope to keep going and keep fighting for what we want. So that's it for today's spoken page. I'll see you next time. Bye.